I'm Mark Quigley, John H. Mitchell Television Curator for the Archive. Thank you all for coming. I want to begin by acknowledging that as an academic institution, UCLA Library and the staff of the UCLA Film and Television Archive understand our responsibility to acknowledge the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of Tovangar. Consistent with UCLA's commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, we believe that understanding the historical and current experiences of Indigenous people helps inform the work we do, and we are humbled to do work in this community. Thank you for coming tonight for Film Noir Television, Johnny Staccato, directed by John Cassavetes, co-presented by our esteemed partner, the Film Noir Foundation, with special guest Brian Light. Tonight's screening is made possible by the John H. Mitchell Television Programming Endowment, and all of the screenings at all the archive screenings at the Billy Wilder Theater are free admission thanks to a generous gift from an anonymous donor. And we'd also like to thank our dear friends at NBC Universal for authorizing the screening. So let's give all those people a hand really quick. It's a lot of people to thank. Tonight we will screen 3 episodes of the 1959-60 television series Johnny Staccato, and these episodes were directed by series star cinema pioneer John Cassavetes. The archive holds 2 sets of 16mm prints, and this was a show that was produced on 35, but the archive holds 2 sets of 16mm prints of the Johnny Staccato series, one from its original first run on NBC, and a second set from its summer rebroadcast on ABC. And what we are viewing tonight is a digitized mix of the best of those 2 prints. And while you might notice that these original 16mm prints have some image and sound imperfections, we are pleased to share these original broadcast elements with you, which include some original commercials from the ABC run. And to introduce the episodes, we are very fortunate to have Brian Light with us. Brian is the showrunner for the Noir City Hollywood Film Festival and has contributed program notes for numerous Los Angeles County Museum of Art film series, including The Naked City, New York Noir and Neorealism, 2012, A Kubrick Odyssey, and Animating the Subconscious. He is also the author of the essential article, Accentuate the Negative, Johnny Staccato Scats the Blues, published in Film Noir Foundation's Noir City magazine, to which Brian frequently contributes. He's also an avid film poster collector and co-curator of a current film poster exhibition at Cal State University Northridge. And on your way out, you can grab some really lovely illustrated brochures for that exhibition. And with that, I'll invite Brian on the stage to introduce tonight's program.
Welcome. First, I'd like to thank Mark and the UCLA Film and Television Archive for inviting me to introduce this evening's program, and my colleagues at the Film Noir Foundation for their support. As Mark mentioned, he has selected 3 of the 5 episodes directed by Cassavetes, and I'm looking forward to revisiting these episodes this time on the big screen. In the late 1950s, Richard Berg was a highly successful television writer and producer with over a dozen original dramas to his credit on shows such as Studio One and Playhouse 90. Jennings Lang, the head of production at Universal Pictures, had approached Berg to see if he could persuade Cassavetes to star in a television series featuring a private detective. Lang obviously wanted to cash in on the success of Peter Gunn. Berg eventually accepted on condition that the protagonist be a jazz pianist who moonlights as a detective, and that he produced the series himself. He chose the terse musical title for the show, Staccato. Lang told Berg he didn't care how he developed a private dick, as long as he got Cassavetes on board. At this stage of his career, Cassavetes had reshot 2/3 of his first film, Shadows, but he had not edited the new footage. And though he had already appeared in over a dozen TV shows, he initially turned down the offer because he felt that the corporate sponsorship behind the show was an affront to his artistic integrity. However, his wife, Jenna Rollins, had not only terminated her MGM contract, but she was also 3 months pregnant. And so he realized that this gig would earn him enough money to wipe out his debts and finish his film, Shadows. Once on board, he used his leading man leverage to actually oust Berg and bring in his old friend and casting agent, Everett Chambers, to produce the series and run much-needed interference with the network executives. The show is set in Waldo's, a fictional Greenwich Village nightclub, which also served as the de facto office for Staccato, who routinely checked his gun and coat with the hat check girl. Waldo was played by the veteran Italian actor Eduardo Cianelli. In addition to the dramatic theme music composed by the great Elmer Bernstein, the cream of West Coast jazz musicians such as Red Norvo, Barney Kessel, Shelley Mann, and a young Johnny Williams, soon to become John Williams, the Oscar-winning composer, appeared in various episodes. The interiors of the show, shot on a Hollywood soundstage, were effectively blended with second unit exteriors shot in New York, utilizing many recognizable locations all over Manhattan, with Staccato supplying the voiceover, which provided the show with a gritty, naked city realism. Cassavetes quickly became invested in the show, using it as a training ground to refine his acting, hone his script writing, and burnish his directorial chops. The episodes were initially farmed out to studio staff writers like Richard Carr, but actually Cassavetes and Chambers did extensive rewrites on many of the episodes. And early in the series, he upended the conventional Peter Gunn format, taking the show into Playhouse 90 territory by focusing more on character observation and moral ambiguity, elements that he would develop further in his later films. The first episode, Evil, stars Alexander Scorby as a preacher on the grift. Lloyd Corrigan delivers a vivid performance as Brother Thomas, and Elisha Cook Jr. is captivating as a Skid Row, rum-dum, and revolving door reformer. The second episode, Night of Jeopardy, is a briskly paced with a pulsating score. Frank DeCova is menacing as the counterfeiting kingpin. Morris Bachman has a field day as a jive-talking janitor. And Frank London, who appeared in 6 episodes, is Staccato's go-to stoolie. The third episode, Solomon, arguably the best episode in the series, opens with Staccato meeting up with the famed criminal lawyer played by Elisha Cook Jr., who is defending his client played by Cloris Leachman, who was accused of murdering her wealthy husband. This is an abstract 3-character set piece constructed like a 2-act play, with striking expressionistic lighting supplied by cinematographer Benjamin Klein, who also shot the 1945 film noir classic Detour. And throughout the series, the show tackled difficult topics such as PTSD, suicide, heroin addiction, homosexuality, and black market babies. After about a dozen episodes, the network attempted to soften the grim tone of the show by adding Johnny to the title and reshooting the opening sequence depicting Staccato as a more stereotypical detective, which was precisely the image that Cassavetes strove to avoid. This led to friction, which continued to escalate between Cassavetes and the sponsors, particularly the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. And he expressed that sponsor interference had approached a new level of artistic agony. And he felt that if he didn't maintain more creative control over the show, that he would make all the parties so unhappy that they would release him from his contract. And that's exactly what happened. He was released from his contract after completing only 27 of his contracted 39 episodes, concluding the show in March of 1960. The show was picked up for summer reruns by ABC, and later that year, it became a hit on the BBC. In a 1971 Playboy interview, Cassavetes reflected on the abrupt ending for the series, expressing that it wasn't until he started to criticize the sponsors publicly that they let him leave. And then he added, and I quote, "I can be a despicable person." And with that, I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy John Cassavetes in Staccato.